All right, let's get back to it. This is American Contractor. Today is January the 20th, 2020, 01/20/2020. Now, this article right here is from the China Military Online. You can look right here. And this is pretty good synopsis, pretty good analysis about why the U.S. troops are remaining in Iraq. The headline is U.S. refusal to withdraw troops escalates gamble with Iraq. And we'll go into this article. After the U.S. military killed Iran's Major General Qasem Soleimani, commander of the IRGC's Al-Quds forces, in Iraq's capital city, Baghdad, the tit-for-tat military operations between the U.S. and Iran almost pushed Iraq to the verge of proxy wars. Although Baghdad demanded the U.S. troops to leave as soon as possible, the U.S. has refused to withdraw the troops, and they may have more furious game on this issue in time to come. The U.S. has an axe to grind by stationing troops in Iraq. There are several reasons why the U.S. military has been so adamant on staying in Iraq despite the host country repeatedly showing them the door. First, it's for the sake of saving face. The official reason why they killed Soleimani was that he has planned to kill more than 600 American officers and soldiers stationed in Iraq in recent years, and as long as been committed to kick the U.S. troops out of the country. After the killing, Iran strongly called on Iraq to drive off the U.S. troops as soon as possible. If the U.S. is pulled out of Iraq at this moment, it will on the one hand cause doubts about the proper reason for killing Soleimani, and on the other hand be mocked as a coward by Iran. Therefore, it won't withdraw the troops from Iraq anytime soon. Second, the U.S. needs to take the upcoming presidential election into account. The U.S. media generally held that the Iraqi issue is one of the most important topics that wield influence over the recent 4 American presidential elections. In 2004, the Iraqi war ruined John Kerry's efforts to replace George Walker Bush, as the Republicans slashed him for being too soft on national security issues. In the presidential campaigns of 2008 and 2016, both Obama and Trump attacked Hillary Clinton for her self-contradictory Iraqi policies. Now, in the preliminaries for the 2020 United States presidential election, Republicans like Joe Biden once again used Trump's failed Iraqi policy as a weapon against the current president. Trump has been so tough on keeping the U.S. troops in Iraq, partly because he has to gain more chips for winning the re-election. Third, the U.S. has safeguarded strategic interests, occupying the predominant position in America's networks of interest in the Middle East. Iraq is considered by the U.S. as a place it cannot afford to lose because it is not only an important battlefield to curb Iran and Syria, but also the forefront in the international anti-terrorism campaign. The U.S. is under huge pressure. From all perspective of views, we can conclude that the U.S.-Iraq game on the withdrawal of American troops will keep fermenting for some time. The U.S. will face pressure from 2 directions if it hopes to keep its troops there. On the one hand, Iraq will continue to push the American troops to leave. According to media reports, the assassination of Soleimani is like the last straw on U.S.-Iraq relations that have been increasingly estranged in recent years. Next, Baghdad will possibly take more steps to drive the U.S. troops out of its territory. In the meantime, countries like Iran and Russia will give a hand to Iraq. Baghdad and Tehran are discussing how to continue their bilateral trade without using the U.S. dollar. And Baghdad said Washington's sanctions against Iran doesn't comply with the international law, according to Dr. Saad Javad Kandil, the Iraqi ambassador to Tehran. On the other hand, there are constant waves of criticisms in the U.S. as well. Both the American government and the Iraqi parliament estimated that the Iraqi national economy will certainly suffer a serious blow if the U.S. imposes sanctions on Iraq for proposing the departure of the U.S. troops. The new sanctions may force the Iraqi government to cave in, but will place the stationed American troops in the country in more severities. More importantly, ever since the U.S. military invaded Iraq in 2003, arguments about the necessity of this war and the stationing of U.S. troops have never stopped. Some in the U.S. have been claiming that the role of the U.S. troops in Iraq have deteriorated from the security defender of the Middle East to, quote, chicken ribs, quote, that are next to nothing in terms of its contribution to America's national security, and it is advisable to withdraw the U.S. troops at an early date. Now, if you've been paying attention, the Iraq government has been reaching out to China. Remember, the Prime Minister went to China to secure some treaties and some trade deals, oil, and then oil agreements, and then Russia, and then Iran. Iran's doing almost $12 billion a year in trade. Then you have the Russians; they're coming in also, and they want to get Iraq away from the U.S. dollar. It may or may not happen. Who knows? As long as the U.S. troops are there and oil still being sold in dollars, that the Iraqi government will have to abide by that for right now. But you're going to see the Iraqi government reaching out to these countries, Russia, Tehran, and China, and trying to move away from the United States. And so there's going to be a conflict there. But the U.S. troops will remain in Iraq, I know, past the American election, U.S. election in November 2020. So we'll see what happens. This is a very good article here from the Chinese Military Online. And if you like this video, please thumbs up, give me a comment below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel.